Felicia Prehn. I'm a mobile game producer and accessibility advocate from Finland, and today we're going to talk about what the music industry can learn from the game industry. And I've got this handy PowerPoint here. So here's a personal tale. Back in 2019, my company, Nopia, made a series of interactive Instagram stories for a Finnish DJ / producer called Ronnie Rex. Now, these went really well. His fans loved them. And they were short. I think the maximum length of one of these was 30 seconds. And at the end of each, the fans on Instagram would be prompted with a poll, a typical Instagram poll that would just go over a still image from the episodic adventure, if you will. And based on how they voted, we would then animate the next series of events, if you will. And these individual stories performed as well as when Ronnie would release a new song. So these were some of the best performing content he had. The comments and reactions on Instagram were as good as you would want, basically. They were overwhelmingly positive. People loved it. They loved the fact that they were getting to interact. They loved the fact that their votes mattered. People were telling everyone to vote for other things. It was a party, basically. And what was weird was no one had done something like that before, at least not in Finland. And it got me thinking at the time about the potential that the music industry and major record labels and larger artists who would have budgets and resources to make their own content, the potential that they were just missing. We were able to do these interactive stories for Ronnie Rex in about a day per episode and for a pretty limited budget because they were 2D, they were pixel art, there wasn't any voice acting. The music was provided by Ronnie. It was like retro game sounds of his songs. You know, it was really done on a shoestring budget, if you will. But the results were great. They were great for engagement and they were great for spreading the word. So fast forward a few months after our experiment with Ronnie Rex, and we made Oku Game, the DJ Runner, which was the world's first mobile game made for a radio DJ, made for the Finnish radio DJ Oku Lukainen. And again, the fans loved it. The game has Oku running through a city, fighting ninjas, collecting pizza as health, and there's tons of little mini games, including this mini game over in the corner here, where yours truly and two of Oku's biggest fans who won a contest to be in the game are in the game. Now, having the fans in there was really brilliant because this allowed for the game to get extra promotion. As I've written here in the slide, when people are part of something like this, when you put someone in a game, even if they're just a typical person with a typical life and not anyone famous, they're going to share this like crazy with their own network and with their own friends and their own communities. And that growth isn't nothing. If you do that on a bigger scale, that's a lot of people sharing themselves and a lot of people talking about your product. Also in Oku Game, we were able to incorporate cartoons and drawings of other Finnish artists who Oku has worked with, for example, the Finnish artist Portion Boys and Movatron and Korale, which allowed the game to be shared with their fans as well. And we created this little community around the game. We had tournaments, there was a lot of things happening based on this, and it was engaging his fans in a way that no one had really engaged with them before. Gamifying aspects of your fan community as a musician is still such uncharted territory, and I don't quite understand why. Because more and more people are learning how to make games. If you need a simple course on Unity, platforms like Udemy and Skillshare are full of them. If you want to learn how to make a basic 2D platformer in Unity, you can. And a lot of people have. There's a lot of young aspiring game developers out there who are looking for ways to fill out their portfolios and get something done. Now, I would never advocate for paying your rent and exposure or offering someone exposure in exchange for them making you a full-on game. That's a terrible idea and that's exploitive. However, what I would say is if you have some money, even if it's just a couple €100, and you approach a student with a flexible timetable and clear instructions, and you have tens of thousands of followers on Instagram, there's nothing in my head that says you couldn't approach that person and say, hey, I've got $500. Make me something interesting that will engage my fans, and I'll put your name all over it, and you can put this on your portfolio and use my name when applying for jobs. Because in the game industry, that's important, especially if you're trying to break in. You need that on your CV. You need something that people have heard of in order to kind of raise, I would say, not expectations, but raise interest in you. You know, I'm currently trying to apply for a new job as a producer, and even though I have tons of background stuff and tons of experience and all of these names on my CV, it's still hard to get through the door. It's even harder if you're someone who's just trying to break in. Every little bit counts. Now, for the music industry side of this, right now, we're all stuck at home. The music industry was the first industry to be severely impacted by COVID, and it's probably going to be the last one to recover, if it's ever going to recover. Events, concerts, festivals, everything was canceled, and there hasn't been a ton of support from the government in any country for the people affected by this. I've seen a lot of people on social media talk about how depressed they are and how hard it's been, but I haven't seen a lot of people offering solutions for their problem. And in my opinion, games and gamification are a simple, unique way to solve that problem. If you can interact and engage your audience in a similar way to how you would live, it's going to give people a similar feeling while also keeping everybody safe and living within the new restrictions that we have. You know, a basic live stream gig is fun and it's cool and it's nice to see the songs, but there's something odd about live stream gigs. There's something unsettling about them, at least for me as a fan of music, to sit home and see them perform to an empty room. It's nice to see that they care, but it's also unsettling. And I'm happy to spend €5 or something to buy an e-ticket, but I'm left feeling like something is missing from the experience. And having gamified content, so whether it be a custom-made mobile game, gamified Instagram stories, something more than just I sit and watch, but rather something where I sit and engage, can be the difference between spending the COVID quarantine sad and wondering how to get our lives back and moving on, paving a new path and doing something that has thus far been largely untapped. And to prove my untapped point, Okogame DJ Runner came out in August of 2019, and in June of this year, Sony Music Finland released their own DJ Runner for this DJ Regard, who I don't know who he is, but that's because I'm old. I'm assuming the youths know who this guy is, and I'm sure he's really cool. But this is the first time that we've been copied, and it took them almost a year to do so. And these graphics look cool, very new wave, very neat, but my game dev background says this didn't take very long to make, and that this would be easy to replicate. And the fact that it took them a year to copy us, and yes, I am going to say that they copied us, sorry, means that they were still late to the party, and it took them a while to realize that maybe this was something. And after this, there still hasn't really been any examples of anyone doing more. After Marshmallow appeared in Fortnite, I thought that the bridge between games and music would start to become more fruitful and larger and more active, but it seems to have stopped. And it's a missed opportunity. As I said before, no one knows how long we're going to be stuck in this situation. No one knows how long gigs and concerts and tours and everything like that are going to be on hold, and when it will be safe to have full-on festivals or independent, intimate basement shows again. So with all the time that we now have on our hands, rather than be sad, we can turn that energy into something unique and something new. I know the music industry is one of the least eager to adapt to new situations and new challenges, but I know that indie musicians are some of the most creative and thoughtful people out there. So starting from somewhere, even if it's just a basic interactive Instagram series, can be the difference between having the worst year of your life and starting something totally new using the power of games and gamification. That's the end of my talk. Bye.